Nitya Lila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansasto Tarasata Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansasto Tarasata Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat pranams to all of my Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. My Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Today we are continuing our reading of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj's book, which is titled The Distinctive Contribution of Srila Rupa Goswami, which we began yesterday in the morning class. And we probably finished about one half of it. So this evening we'll complete this introduction. It's the introduction to this booklet. And this is also the title of this article, introduction, the distinctive contribution of Sri Rupa Goswami. So, we were reading yesterday
About halfway, so it's 9 items.
Okay, now I found it. Okay. So, yesterday Srila Gurudev was listing that he was giving various evidence from especially Srimad Bhagavatam about the proof of various verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly in the Ras Lila 5 chapters, proving that indeed the mood of paramour love were trying to postulate that no, this upapati or this paramour love is not there between Radha and Krishna. This is a very big offense and also a very degraded attitude. What they tell they try to say that Radha and Krishna's conjugal affairs are like the ordinary person's lusty affairs of this world. So Rupa Goswami had some very harsh words to say towards them, and he completely crushed their nonsensical and very, very offensive aparad that they were performing. And he proved. Because if anybody reads Srimad Bhagavatam under proper guidance, and they read the chapters of the Ras Lila, this is completely about Parakiya Ras. And this is the highest point in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So there was such a beautiful presentation of how this could never be possible. This could never be possible that these persons who are saying that this is ordinary lusty affairs. It would be possible. My phone in my room. You can just hang it up, whatever. So just to refresh our memory, this is in the section called the speciality of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. This is a short section here. Those pastimes and their sporting pleasure, vihar, only these are accepted. And even within those pastimes, they do not accept the pastimes of concealed desire and longing. Concealed desire and longing, which are called prachanda kamukata, nor the sulky mood. Just put it on airplane mode. So, even within those pastimes, they do not accept pastimes of concealed desire and longing, prachanda kamukata, or sulky mood, man, or tryst, abhisar, or achievement with great difficulty, durlabhata, and opposition, nivaran. So all of those things here, all of those moods, man, abhisar, durlabhata, achievement with great difficulty, nivarana, opposition, this is all the transcendental affairs of Radha and Krishna's pastimes that are going on continually, eternally, day and night, in 24-hour, eightfold daily pastimes. But yet these people, they're not accepting this, right? So, in regard to the paramour mood of the gopis, in regards to that paramour mood, they espouse the common sentiment regarding ordinary heroes and heroines, and they look upon the parakya bhav as licentious behavior. Such people, according to the thought of Sri Rupa Goswami, they are evil-minded. This is his judgment. So in the following verse, Sri Rupa Goswami uses the interjection, express great lamentation for these people. Kim van yad yatastasyam idam eva mahamuni jago paramaham sam shuka. So this is a very powerful statement here by Rupa Goswami. He says that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also known as the Paramahansi Samhita. Did you know that the Srimad Bhagavatam is also known as the Paramahansi Samhita? Why? Because it's meant for the Paramahansas. It's spoken by the Paramahansas. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the great sage, Sri Shukadev, he sang the glories of the Braja Gopis Parakya mood in a loud voice. Who is Shukadev Goswami? Bhagavan Narayan. He first revealed this Paramahansi Samhita to Lord Brahma, who is the grandfather of the universe. Now, how did he do that? In the form of the 4 verses. Sri Shukadev, who is the crest jewel of the family of Paramahansas, probably sang this Samhita to who? In the assembly of Maharaj Parikshit. Sri Parikshit was awaiting death in the presence of Devarshi Narada. Who else was there in that assembly? Narada Rishi, Vashishta, Parashara, Vedavyas, and all other great, great souls. Not an ordinary audience. Those great personalities, they were all knowers of the Supreme Absolute, expert in relishing the mellows of devotion. That means rasika. And the crest jewels of liberated personalities. Try to.
Isn't that the Brahman of Bhagavatam? The assembly of them together. And that is
Brahman is the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right,
and all of them accept
the
that.
authorization
Of course. Of course.
It's both.
But the speaker and the hearers. The Srimad Bhagavatam is not just a piece of paper. It is spoken in such an assembly. This is the highest glory that anyone has ever witnessed before. Is this recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam in that assembly? And who was there? So, it was at that particular time, in the presence of these personalities, that Sri Shukadev sang about this Parakiya Bhav in the Paramahansa Samhita Srimad Bhagavatam discourse. He, the speaker, Sri Shukadev, and the audience, who included Maharaj Parikshit and sages such as Sutta Goswami, Shonaka, Vidura, Maitreya Muni, they were all of them exalted or even liberated personalities. Liberated, not bound in this material. Therefore, this mood of paramour love between Sri Krishna and the gopis can never be reprehensible or sordid.
Sure. Degraded.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
So now, having recapped that, now the next section is titled Bhakti Rasa, the form of devotion. So we're continuing to hear what is this contribution of Rupa Goswami. So now, Bhakti Rasa, the form of devotion. In the Vaishnava Sampradayas, Mahaprabhu appeared. That means which Sampradayas? 4.
Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, and Madhva.
So, in those Vaishnava Sampradayas, before Srimad Mahaprabhu, the practice of bhakti, that is Vaidhi Bhakti, or devotional service according to regulated principles, it was present. How could it not be? All of them, they were also following Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole Vaishnava Sampradayas. They accept Srimad Bhagavatam, they accept Bhagavad Gita. So, but before Mahaprabhu appeared, that was the type of bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, according to regulated principles. This is what was present at the time. However, at that time, it was not widely accepted by scholars that bhakti is also a rasa. Meaning what? Meaning that its essential nature is that of relishment in transcendental relationship. You have to try to consider, what was this that was not yet understood, even by the scholars at that time? So, this is going to explain the significance of the contribution of Rupa Goswami, who heard directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about Bhakti Rasa. So these scholars, they could not accept, they could not understand and accept that Bhakti is also a rasa. It means that the essential nature of Bhakti, is relishment in the transcendental relationship. It was solely Srila Rupa Goswami who, in his analytical exposition, that Bhakti has the inherent nature of transcendental, extending to the pinnacle state of Shringar Ras, paramour, conjugal love, in the spontaneous, loving, devotional service of Braja, the Ragatmika Bhakti. Ragatmika Bhakti, this is what was established by Rupa Goswami. And that the very pinnacle of all those rasas in Braj, of the eternal associates, Ragatmika Jan, in Braja, that this was the natural and the highest state of bhakti. So what's being talked about here is bhakti. He used examples. Rupa Goswami, he used examples to show how bhakti rasa manifests when rati means attachment, rati, or staibhav, permanent ecstasy, staibhav and rati. When these two combine with ecstasies, such as vibhav, I'll just tell the names first. Vibhav, Satvik Bhav, Anubhav, Sanchari Bhav. Now, first there's Rati, and it is also known as Sthai Bhav. Okay? When one attains the stage of Bhav, which is called Bhav Avastha, in the progress of practicing bhakti, then one attains Sthai Bhav. And it's also called Rati. It may be in Shantaras, Dasyaras, Satyaras, Vatsalya, Madhurya. So, here, Srila Gurudev is explaining how Rupa Goswami, he revealed the science of rasa. So, this rasa cannot take place in anyone. Bhakti rasa cannot take place in anyone unless they have attained the stage of rati. Why? Because sthai bhav is required. The permanent ecstasy. Someone has to have realized their siddha swarupa. Through that realization, they are now situated permanently in their permanent ecstatic mood. Okay. Can you lock that door?
Yeah.
So, this Sthai Bhav combines with 4 other ingredients. Now, before I read this, Srila Gurudev very often gave an example of making a very nice drink. Which drink? Lemonade. It's called Nimbu Pani in India. So he said, if you want to make a very, very refreshing, relishable drink, of Nimbupani, then you have to combine different ingredients together, right? What are those? Well, first you start with lemons, okay? And then you have to get the lemon juice. So it makes a very relishable drink. However, you have to know what proportion has to be mixed. Because if you mix 50% lemon juice and 50% water, and a few tablespoons of sugar, what will it taste like? Not very relishable. So here's the point. This is a very basic, elementary example to understand the science that Srila Rupa Goswami revealed in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And there are many, many different elements that have to combine together, that through which the experience of tasting bhakti rasa can happen. So, we already told that there has to be the platform, the basis of Staibhav. Then the second ingredient is called Vibhav. Vibhav means excitants that stimulate for Krishna. This is only a very, very, basic overview. You have to read at least the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who begins to open up these topics so that they can be properly understood. But this is just listing them right now. So we should hear and just try to understand. These are stimulants, excitants. They excite. What do they excite? Affection for Krishna. And that stimulant, affection for Krishna, comes in the form of two different types of excitants. One is called alamban. That it means they offer support. Supportive excitants. And the other is called udipan, impelling excitants. So one is supportive, one is impelling, causing to impel. We've heard the word udipan a lot. But real udipan we cannot experience until there is this permanent ecstasy Staibhav. Like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written songs, how these different elements and different objects in Braj, they are causing udipan for my feelings of love for Krishna, stimulants, that they will awaken my love for Krishna when I see a dark rain cloud like this. So many examples he's giving. So the first first type of ecstasy is called Vibhav. Okay? The second one is called Satvik Bhav. And the translation, existential ecstasy. Existential ecstasy. The third is called Anubhav. And Anubhav means subordinate ecstasy. And the fourth is called Sanchari Bhav, means transit ecstasies, etc. So, then he states that Bhakti Rasa, you want a pillow? Okay. He states that Bhakti Rasa contains 5 main rasas. Okay, now here is the list. We didn't read it yesterday, but here's the list. There are 5 main rasas, and all of you know what these 5 main rasas are. These are serving moods, rasas. First one is called Shanta Ras. That means passive adoration. The second one is called dasya ras, means servitude. Third one is called sakya ras, friendship. Fourth is called vatsalya rasa, parenthood. And the fifth one is called madhurya, or shringar, conjugal love. So these are the 5 main rasas. But there are also 7 secondary rasas. What are those? First one, hasya, comedy. What you should understand is that all of these 12 rasas, 5 primary and 7, they are pervertedly reflected through the Maya Shakti potency. Why do we say pervertedly reflected? Well, we as human beings, we have the eligibility to engage in these exchanges with others. Because a rasa is a relationship. It doesn't stand on its own. So these 5 main relationships we can easily observe in the human society, isn't it? All human beings interacting with one another and experiencing and tasting these 5 different types of relationships. And we could give so many examples. But there's no ecstasy there. There is no rasa there. They're perverted rasas. What appears to be a rasa to the conditioned soul is a mirage. It's a mirage. What is a mirage? What?
It's illusionary and temporary.
It's seeing something that appears to be something, but when you get close to it, it's not. Understand? That example is given by our acharyas. I mean, I've never, well, I guess we've seen it. I remember even like in the very hot sun, and if you're on a big, huge tarmac, then what happens is those sun rays at a distance, because there's so much heat reflecting off of the tarmac, that it looks like waves. So in the desert, when people are trekking through the desert on their caravans with camels and all of that, this is a very common thing, that it looks like in the distance, because the sand becomes very, very hot. And then it looks like in the distance, oh, there's water there. There's water. But as they get there, they find nothing but sand. So really, what is being presented by the Maya potency is an illusion. Okay? I mean, this is so basic for us to try to understand as devotees, because unless somebody gets this philosophical understanding, they can never really progress in spiritual life. Because spiritual life means switching off, not completely, but switching off your dependency for your happiness upon matter and turning it completely toward reality, spirit, which is the actual dharma, right? The jiva dharma, the jaiva dharma. And it's real. It's real. It's eternal. But all these objects are avastava vastus. They don't exist permanently. They're very temporary. And they're incomplete. They cannot satisfy the jiva, because the jiva is spiritual entity. It's not a material entity. But Maya has caused us to think that we are this temporary body and temporary subtle body, and that we can enjoy and interact with the objects of this material world and become happy. It's an illusion. Because guess what? Then taste real happiness, and that's called rasa. Even one time, I remember Gurudev was saying, here's a real good, simple one for everybody. He said that males are very good. Males are very good. And females are also very, very good. Then he held up his hands and he went like this. He said, but when they come together, then so much bad comes. Males are good, females are, they come together. So much. He said that liberated personalities who actually have realized that they're not this physical body, when they see the attempt of the jivas in this world to come together like as husband, wife, like this, male and female bodies, then it's kind of, they laugh when they see this. I'll explain why they laugh. You want to guess why they laugh? Or you want me to explain it?
Explain.
They laugh because there are two entities in the entire creation. One is called Purusha and one is called Prakriti. Please tell me, what is the meaning of this, O learned Vaishnavas?
Krishna is the only Purusha.
What does Purusha mean?
Male.
But what does it also mean?
Enjoyer.
The enjoyer. The enjoyer. And what does Prakriti mean?
Enjoy.
Enjoyed. So, Purusha is the enjoyer, and Prakriti is the enjoyed. And what forms do they have in the spiritual reality? Yes, thank you. Radha Krishna. Wait, I'm not finished. I have to put forward this, and we'll come to that. So, every entity who is Shakti, means energy, is Prakriti. They're subordinate to Purusha. They're subordinate to Purusha. Because Purusha means what? The enjoyer. And Prakriti means the enjoyed. They exist for the enjoyment of the Purusha. And we cannot find any example greater than the gopis and Srimati Radhika. So every breath, every thought, everything is for Krishna. So, you want to say something in that connection?
I was just remembering that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada has written in an article that what to speak of the cowherd boys, even Nanda Maharaj is Prakriti.
Yes.
Is in relationship to Krishna, feminine energy.
Yes. Jiver Swarupahoy, what?
Krishna.
Everyone say it loudly. What does that mean, Tulsi? Jiver Swarup Hoy, Krishner Nitya Das.
We're eternal servants of Krishna, Jesus.
Yes. We're servants, we're not masters. Master means enjoyer, one who provides the enjoyment. So, in the material world, there are these roles. Nowadays, there's lots of very disharmonious. In the Vedic system, it's all set up so that male can be male, female can be female, and there's a very harmonious way. But in the Kali Yuga, as it progresses, all of this is very, very disturbed. I don't need to go into details about this. But the point is this, that the liberated souls, now I'm making this point, the liberated souls when they see the jivas, this is Gurudev telling this, when they see the jivas in this world, and they see how they're combining together, then they laugh. You know why? Because this jiva in the male body is actually Prakriti, and this jiva in the female body is Prakriti. But both of them are thinking and trying to act like they're Purushas. So therefore, it doesn't work. According to the regulations of Shastra and Vedic Varnashram Dharma, all of this, there's a system for accepting the natural roles, okay? But still, even with that, there is the problem that each is thinking, I'm the Purusha, I'm the enjoyer. Okay? So, anyway, that was a little tangent there, but my point is that in the material world, all the jivas are trying to enjoy the 5 primary rasas and the 7 secondary. What are the 7 secondary rasas? First of all, comedy, hasya. Secondly, adbhuta, wonder. Third, raudra, anger. Fourth, vira, chivalry. 5, karuna, means pathos. What? Compassion, right? Pathos. 6, bhayanaka, dread. 7, vibhatsa, disgust. So these are the 7 secondary rasas. Such an illustration of the form of devotion has never been seen before anywhere. This is the unique explanation of Rupa Goswami. So, look at any Hollywood film. All of these 12 rasas, they are trying to stimulate. You've got comedies, you've got horror movies, you've got dramas, and all of these different emotions, they are trying to stimulate. All of these emotions. But they're the temporary material emotions. But still people enjoy. Why would they enjoy seeing a horror film? And they become very, very frightened. Fear. Bhayanaka. Fear. Horror. Dread. Disgust. But then when they come out of the movie theater, they go, oh, that was a great film. Right? So, the living entities have to be engaged in exchanges of rasa, otherwise there's no life. There's no life. But these exchanges that are going on in this temporary world, when viewed from the position of the Paramahamsas, this is very, what do you say, like degraded. The degradation of the jiva. So, in the spiritual sense, Rupa Goswami contributed this entire scientific analysis of what is actually bhakti rasa. How does this bhakti rasa develop into the experience of tasting? So many unlimited, infinite varieties of rasa based on, you see. Also, Rupa Goswami analyzed that when someone makes some attempt to present some drama or some kind of presentation of a story, Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhari Giridhari Shri Radha Govinda Jai. But there's an improper presentation that is not in line with the science of bhakti rasa, then it is rejectable by those who are tasters of bhakti rasa, because it's called ras abhas. Devotees, they know. They use this in their ordinary vocabulary. Oh, Prabhu, that's rasavas. Huh? No. Rasavas is completely unacceptable for those who are expert tasters of rasa. And that is why Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, one of the services that he performed for Mahaprabhu was, if anybody wanted to come and they wanted to make a presentation of some, story that they had written or drama or anything, because Vaishnavas are poets, so Swarup Damodar Goswami would have to review it first, because nothing could be presented to Mahaprabhu which was Ras Abhas. Abhas means a semblance of, not actual rasa. Ras Abhas. Improper mixing of the rasas. Bad taste. And chastised sometimes to them. So now, Gurudev moves on. And this section is titled Srila Rupa Goswami is Sri Rupa Manjari. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami is Sri Rupa Manjari in the past. So, in the form of an eternal maid servant, she serves the divine couple in their pastimes, in the secluded bowers of Vraja. However, Sri Rupa Manjari does not explain the process by which the mood of being a maidservant is obtained. In the form of Sri Rupa Goswami, though, he has explained this. So he tells, here's the verse, from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is one of 4 important shlokas describing how someone can practice Rag Anuga Bhakti. So here, this verse is telling, Krishnam Smaran Janam Chasya Preshtam Nija Samihitam Tat Tat Katha Rataschaso Kuryad Vasam Vraje Sada. The male or female practitioner engaged in remembering and serving Sri Krishna should call to mind the ragatmic devotees. Who are ragatmic devotees? Come on, you know. Why are you so shy to say? Come on. Ragatmik means Krishna's eternal associates in Goloka Vrindavan. You didn't know that? Ragatmik devotees. The point about rag has to be understood. What is rag? What is ragatmik? And what is rag anuga? So, here, this verse is written by Rupa Goswami to describe how a devotee, practitioner of this pathway of bhakti, how he will be remembering Krishna Smaran, remembering Krishna. Janam Chasya, that means along with who? His eternal associates. Preshtam. Preshtam means very dear associates, eternal associates. Ragatmik. Nija Samihitam. Nija Samihitam means that what you yourself are aspiring to attain in relationship with Krishna. Then tat tat kata ratascha so. The devotee should always hear that katha about those eternal associates and their relationships with Krishna. And kuryad vasam vraje sada. Kuryad vasam means he should perform vrajvas, living in Braj, doing this while living in Braj. So Gurudev is explaining, the male or the female practitioner engaged in remembering and serving Sri Krishna, call to mind Krishna Smaram Janam Chasya Preshtam. He should call to mind the ragatmic devotees, those who are endowed with moods such as Sakya, Vatsalya, Shringar, conjugal affection, whose service he or she longs for. Because Raganuga means that now you have some greed. I want to serve Krishna like this devotee serves Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. While continuously staying in Vraja, the practitioner should serve the divine couple under the guidance of such in his or her body, Siddhadeha, always submerged in the nectarian pastimes of the divine couple. By this alone, that desired mood can be obtained. Without the specific guidance of the gopis, that parakya bhav cannot be obtained. So Sri Rupa Goswami actually what Gurudev has done here, combined two different verses from these four very important verses describing what is the process by which one may attain his eternal relationship with Krishna. So, Sri Rupa Goswami, he is endowed with properties or attributes that are more distinguished than even those of Sri Rupa Manjari. Imagine this. What did I just say? What did Gurudev just say?
Sri Rupa Goswami is endowed.
Specific, more qualities than even Sri Rupa.
More properties and attributes that are more distinguished than even those of Sri Rupa Manjari. How can we understand this?
There's other manjaris in the spiritual world, but in this world, Rupa Goswami came and actually preached and gave a process by which one can attain to that place.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's where Srila Gurudev now presents the song that was sung yesterday, and that is one of the main things Gurudev would always sing. Appearance day, and also when Guru Parikrama, and we would come to Terikadamba, then we would sing the song Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadharata. So here, Srila Gurudev is saying that Sri Rupa Goswami is endowed with properties or attributes that are more distinguished than even those of Sri Rupa Manjari. By the life and by the pen of Sri Rupa Goswami, the world has reaped greater benefit. So then he quotes the first and the fourth verses of the song, where he says, Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadharata Tan Vraja Prema Mahanidhi Kutarika Kon Kapata Ugarata Ko Janata Madhura Vrindavana Ko Janata Vrajanita Ko Janata Radhamadhavarati Ko Janata Soy Rita. The purport of this song is that if Rupa Goswami had not appeared, then who would have revealed Parakya Bhav, the Paramore mood, which is the means to obtain the great treasure of the love of Vraja? Without his mercy, who could have understood the sweetness of Mathura and Vrindavan, and the glories of the damsels of Braj. Moreover, who could have understood the and the love of Radha and Madhava if Rupa Goswami had not come? So now Gurudev is going to talk about how Rupa Goswami understood the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because that we stated yesterday, that Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. He understood what is the Mano Abhishta, heart's desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he established the mission to fulfill Mahaprabhu in this world. So the incident of the Rath Yatra festival, at that time, then Sri Gaur Hari, he was speaking a verse from the Sahitya Darpana. And Sahitya Darpana is a dramatic, poetical presentation, but it's speaking on the level of material relationships. So, at the time of the Rath Yatra festival, Sri Gaur Hari was speaking a verse in front of Jagannath. And this purport of that verse, which most persons thought, why is he speaking such a verse? This is about a mundane woman who met her husband when she was young on the banks of such and such a river, and she's remembering that. And, you stole my heart at that time, ya komara hara. You stole my heart in my youth, like this. I want to be there again. But this is a material, poetical verse. So when Mahaprabhu is speaking this, the purpose is Swarup Damodar. And no one else could comprehend. However, Sri Rupa Goswami, who was also there, he understood the innermost desire of Sriman Mahaprabhu. He explained the confidential meaning of that verse in another verse that he himself composed. And for this, Sriman Mahaprabhu lovingly slapped him on the back. So the Sahitya Darpana verse, here we're reading it. So you can read, you can pay attention and see how the verse that Mahaprabhu is very beautiful and poetical. But what does it mean? Why is Mahaprabhu? Well, and then the verse that Rupa Goswami wrote, it completely revealed the inner mood of Mahaprabhu. So, the first verse is like as follows. Yakko marahara sa eva hivarastha eva chaitra kshapas techon milita malati surabhaya prodha kadamba nila sa chaivasmi tatapi tatra surata vyapara lila vidho reva rodasi vetasi tarutale cheta samutkantate. So, here, this lady is saying, that very person in my youth, on the banks of the Reva, has now become my husband. The same nights of Madhu Mas have arrived. The scent of the blood is again there. And the same sweet breezes are gently blowing with the fragrance of the Kadamba forest. I am also the same heroine in the performance of intimate pastimes. Yet even in this, my mind is not happy. It is hankering to go back to the banks of the Reva under the shade of the Kadamba tree in the Vetasi grove. So, this verse has nothing to do with Krishna. It is simply an exchange between two jivas in a romantic relationship. And she is longing internally that I want to go back to that place, to that time, and experience that again. So, now Srila Rupa Goswami, and he remembered it, and then he went to the hut that he was living in, next to Namacharya Haridas Thakur, and he wrote from his realization of Mahaprabhu's moods, he wrote this verse. Priyasoyam Krishna Sahachari Kurukshetra Militas Tataham Saradha Tad Idam Ubayo Sangama Sukham Tatapyanta Kelan Madhura Murali Panchamajushe Manome Kalindi Pulina Vipinaya Sprihayati. O Saki, today in Kurukshetra, I have met my dear Sri Krishna, who is my life and soul. I am the same Radha, and we are both experiencing the same happiness of meeting. But still, my mind yearns for the forest of Vrindavan on the banks of the Kalindi, which is flooded by the bliss of the fifth note of Sri Krishna's flute. So who is speaking? When Mahaprabhu is reciting that other verse, who is actually speaking?
Radharani.
Srimati Radharani. But it doesn't say that in the verse, but Rupa Goswami could detect, he could fully understand that this verse is spoken by Srimati Radhika at Kurukshetra, where she's directly meeting Krishna for the first time. Like Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, in nearly 100 years. And those exchanges there. So of course, Srila Gurudev is saying that the meanings of the verses, that's another. So the point is that Rupa Goswami, he pleased Mahaprabhu much by writing that verse, because what happened then? Actually, Rupa Goswami had gone to bathe when he wrote that verse, and then he stuck it in the thatched roof, sticking out. But in the meantime, when he went to bathe, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there with Swarup Damodar. And Mahaprabhu noticed, oh, what is this? He pulled it down, and then he read it. And just as he read it, Rupa Goswami returned, and Mahaprabhu looked at him. And Rupa Goswami paid his obeisances, and then Mahaprabhu slapped him on the back. How could you know my heart? How could you have understood my heart? So, here Gurudev is saying that the meanings of the verses of the Govinda Virudavali, which is composed by Sri Rupa Goswami, are extremely confidential. And even Dik Gaja Pandits, a Dik Gaja Pandit means a powerful, stalwart scholar. They cannot fathom their meaning of those verses. These verses reveal wonderful variety of ornamentation, alankar, and alliteration, anupras. So that's called the book Govinda Virudavali, written by Rupa Goswami. Now, the subject of Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service. So, what's the verse? Everyone can say the verse. The definition of bhakti. Okay. So, Sri Rupa Goswami describes that Shraddha, faith, the first step of pure devotional service, Uttama Bhakti, because Uttama Bhakti is pure devotional service. So Shraddha is the first step. Then comes Nishtha. Then comes Ruchi, taste, relish. Then comes Asakti, attachment. Then develops Rati, condensed attachment, also known as Bhav, which is a ray of the sun of praying. And then comes praying, finally, pure love. It progresses further, even in the stage of praying. Affection, man, sulky mood, pranay, intimate love, rag, spontaneous love, anurag, sub-ecstatic love, bhav, ecstatic love, mahabhav, topmost spiritual ecstasy, and madan, topmost ecstasy in meeting. So the definition of pure devotional service, or Uttama Bhakti, and its above-mentioned successive developmental stages, as described by Sri Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and in Ujjvala Nilamani, these definitions and the description of these stages are not to be found anywhere else. Nowhere. Even scholars of other sampradayas, they quote these definitions in their speeches and in their commentaries. One example is Sri Rupa Goswami's definition of Uttama Bhakti, which we just told. Again, we'll say it all together. Anya vilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. Here's the translation. A bit of an extended translation. When perpetual, ardent endeavor, called anushilana, is performed with mood that is favorable to Sri Krishna and to the objects and the personalities related to him, if it is unmixed with one, attachment to knowledge of the oneness of the jiva with the featureless impersonal Brahman. That's called Nirbhed Brahma Gyan. Now, in the verse, it says what? Jnana karmadi anavritam. So here, this is being pointed out, that this type of gyan is impersonal gyan. It's called Nirbhed Brahma Gyan. It means that a person is attached to this knowledge of the oneness of the jiva with the featureless impersonal Brahma. Then the second thing is jnana karmadi anavritam, right? So second one is attachment to fruitive activities. What are they? Sakam karma. What does sakam mean? Sakam means with kam, desire, material desire. So, attachment to sakam karma and to performing activities without personal motivation, nishkam karma. Then number 3 comes attachment to occupational duties in the Varnashram system and to the practice of mysticism, yoga. And if it is devoid of desires for anything other than Sri Krishna and Krishna Bhakti or loving service to him, then such constant endeavor, anushilana, is known as Uttama Bhakti. So there's actually, Srila Gurudev has included a very wonderful article written by his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, in really a beautiful presentation of this verse, and how ingeniously Srila Rupa Goswami has composed this verse to be the perfect definition. And many times Gurudev has said there are different definitions of bhakti. Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Krayam Indra Sevan Mukhehi Jivado Swayameva Spuratyada, and various other verses. Even in Savai Pungsam Parodharmo Yato Bhakti Radhoksaje Ahoituki Apratihata Yeyatma Suprasidati. So various verses are there in the Bhagavatam and in various other Shastras that are talking about what is bhakti, what is the definition of bhakti. But no definition, Gurudev has told, can come close to this definition that Rupa Goswami has given, because it covers everything and nothing is left out. It is all-inclusive. So, if someone wants to understand and know what is bhakti, they will have to study this verse of Rupa Goswami, which is one of his, it's like the 11th verse in the entire, and it's the first verse that he composed to begin his treatise. Everything before that are like Mangala Charana verses. But this verse is the first definition verse. And the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is full of definitions. So, the time has gone, and the Julan is here, and Radha and Krishna have come, and they want to swing. They have a very strong desire to swing. We had a very beautiful reading about their swinging on the day that everybody was not here. So you missed all the relish and all the nectar and rasa of Radha and Krishna's beautiful pastimes, but now they've come to perform their pastime and they want us to serve them. How do they want us to serve them? They want us with devotion in our heart to come and assist the manjaris and all the gopis in swinging Radha and Krishna. So we each get a chance to do that. And the more devotion that we put into our swinging Radha and Krishna, the more bhakti will come to us in our heart. So, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai, Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga ki jai, Sacinandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.